Repeat the holidays that we learned in the last lesson. Silvester, das Neujahr, der Valentinstag, der Karfreitag, Ostern, der Tag der Arbeit, der Muttertag, der Vatertag, Halloween, der Nikolaustag, der Heiligabend. And the other way to say it, der Heilige Abend. Weihnachten. We learned also in the last lesson how to ask, when's your birthday? Wann hast du Geburtstag? Literally, again, when do you have a birthday? And we also learned how to answer this question, as in, for example, my birthday is November 15th, by saying, Ich habe am 15. November Geburtstag. With the time element, am 15. November, coming right after the verb, and the direct object, Geburtstag, birthday, coming last. And we also learned that when you say on a given date, we use the word am, plus the letter n is added to the ordinal number, which is needed as the dative case adjectival ending. But how do you ask, when were you born? Which is in essence asking for the year as well. Well, the way to say when you were born, if you're asking a friend, a family member, a child, someone with whom you would be informal, you'd ask, Wann bist du geboren? Repeat that, Wann bist du geboren? And if talking to a stranger or anyone with whom you should be formal, you'd ask, Wann sind Sie geboren? Repeat that, Wann sind Sie geboren? Good. In order to answer this question, you need to know how to express the year in German. Well, as a number, we say 1956 using a comma. But as a year, we don't use a comma and we say 1956 or 1956. As a number, Germans use 1000 or 1956 using a period instead of a comma. And as a year, Germans say 1956. 1900, they definitely add the 100 in there, 1956. So, if someone asked me when I was born, I would say the following. I would say, I was born on November 15th, 1956. Ich bin am 15. November 1956 geboren. Notice again, geboren is the last word being the past participle. By the way, if you were born in the new century, you do not say 2000 like I just did with 1900. You just say 2000. For example, the year 2018 is expressed as 2018. But anything before the new century is 1900 this, 1800 this, 1700 this, etc. And by the way, if I wanted to include that I was born in Erie, for example, I would just add the words in Erie after the year, before the word geboren, and I'd have this. Ich bin am 15. November 1956 in Erie geboren. Notice that the date comes before the place, and geboren still has to be the last word. So using this model, you should be able to tell someone when and where you were born, because you would say again, Ich bin am, use your ordinal number, your month, whatever the year is, the word in, name the city, and then geboren. Now, if I were to ask when someone was born who was no longer alive, like a former president like George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, or anybody who is no longer alive, well then I'd ask it this way. Wann wurde blank geboren? The word wurde plus geboren is used to refer to someone who was no longer alive. When was George Washington born? So if I did want to ask that, when was George Washington born, I'd say it this way. Wann wurde George Washington geboren? Now here's the answer to that question in English. George Washington was born on February 22nd, 1732. See if you could say this in German. I'll give you a few moments. Go ahead. Well, I hope you got it or got close anyway. It would be, George Washington wurde am 22. Februar 1732 geboren. Of course, if I were answering the question that someone asked me about George Washington, I don't have to use his name in the answer. I could just say he. I can make it as simple as wurde am 22. Februar 1732 geboren. It makes it a little bit shorter anyway. And if you want to talk about when someone died, you would need the verb to die. So let's learn that verb. The verb is sterben. Repeat the forms after me. Ich sterbe. Du stirbst. Er stirbt. Sie stirbt. Es stirbt. Wir sterben. Ihr sterbt. Sie sterben. Good. Notice the irregularity in the do form and the er, sie, and s form. The e changes to an I. Now let's learn the past tense of sterben. It happens to be a strong verb. The past participle ends in en like most strong verbs do, and this one happens to take sein instead of haben as a helping verb. Repeat the forms after me. Ich bin gestorben. Du bist gestorben. Er ist gestorben. Wir sind gestorben. Ihr seid gestorben. Sie sind gestorben. Notice again, the past participle ends in en, also has a vowel change with the o. Good. Now here's an expression to know how to say, I'm starving, to be starving or famished. Literally, to be dying of hunger. Vor Hunger sterben. Repeat that expression. Vor Hunger sterben. Good. So let's use this in some sentences. Say, I'm famished and you're famished. Or, in other words, I'm dying of hunger, you're dying of hunger, I'm starving. Ich sterbe vor Hunger. Du stirbst vor Hunger. Say, he's starving and she's famished. Er stirbt vor Hunger. Sie stirbt vor Hunger. Say, we're famished and they're starving. Wir sterben vor Hunger. Sie sterben vor Hunger. Say, you informal plural, and then you formal are famished or dying of hunger. Ihr sterbt vor Hunger. Sie sterben vor Hunger. Good. Now repeat after me. Say, he died in 1956. Er ist 1956 gestorben. Notice that in German, the word in isn't used before the year like we do in English. I would say he died in 1956. German would never put the word in right before the year. Although, it could be said this way. He died in the year 1956. Er ist im Jahre 1956 gestorben. Repeat that expression, in the year. Im Jahre. Again, im Jahre. Good. So now say, she died in 1749. Repeat after me. Sie ist 1749 gestorben. And again, I could add right here the words im Jahre, and I'd have sie ist im Jahre 1749 gestorben. But again, never the word in by itself before the year. Say they died in 1825 after me. Sie sind 1825 gestorben. Good. And again, I could add im Jahre to that if I want, and we go right here. Now see if you can say this in German. Try it. Well, this might have been tough, I don't know, but this is what the answer would be. George Washington ist am 14. Dezember 1799 gestorben. I hope you got it, or got close at least. Good job. In our next lesson, we'll learn some more time expressions. Auf Wiedersehen.